What do you think about when photos of beautiful girls against the backdrop of the Burj Khalifa appear in your feed? Nowadays, success on social media is all about money. And over the last 5 years, one of the most popular holiday destinations among wealthy people has been Dubai. Here, in the United Arab Emirates, one of the richest countries in the world, influential people gather, while girls dreaming of a glamorous life arrive in the hope of realizing their dreams. However, the reality can turn out to be much harsher. Girls who were smiling for the camera with a glass of champagne just yesterday might find themselves drawn into stories that no one dares to speak about aloud. Sexual slavery, human trafficking, and porta-potty parties where things happen that are impossible to believe. Are you ready to look at Dubai without filters and learn what it really looks like? Today, I'll tell you several real stories of girls who survived terrible events in this country. In this video, you'll learn about the dark side of Dubai that everyone keeps silent about. And before starting this video, I ask you to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell so you don't miss new episodes. Also, share this video with your moms, sisters, and girlfriends so that, God forbid, they don't end up in a similar situation. And now, let's begin with you. Dubai is not just a desert city where glass skyscrapers soar into the sky and luxury cars gleam under the scorching sun. It's a magnet for thousands of girls from all over the world, each arriving with their own dreams and hopes. Some seek a beautiful life, expensive jewelry, and fashion boutiques. Others dream of meeting a wealthy sheik and taking their place among his wives. And some simply want to earn money and feel like part of a fairy tale, even if just for a short time. Dubai has always lured young and ambitious women with its illusion of quick success and limitless opportunities. Now, Dubai is back in the headlines due to the tragic and terrifying story that happened to model Maria Kovalchuk in March 2025. This girl's name suddenly became the center of international attention, and social media is literally exploding with messages, guesses, versions, and debates. What happened to Maria Kovalchuk in Dubai? How did a girl who came to the city for success, fame, and wealth end up on the brink of life and death? Maria Kovalchuk was born on a spring day into a small family. Even in childhood, Maria stood out with her bright appearance. Ash blonde hair and unusually beautiful blue-green eyes that emphasized her delicacy and tenderness. Those around her always noted her kindness and responsiveness. A friend of Maria's recalled, "I transferred to the Lyceum in 8th grade, and Masha was the first person I started talking to. She was a very responsive and kind person throughout our entire studies, up to 10th grade, until she transferred to another school due to family circumstances. Everyone in the class got along well with her. She always tried to help everyone." Masha grew up in a family of average means. However, Maria's childhood years couldn't be called easy. Despite her external attractiveness, the girl struggled for a long time with complexes due to excess weight, which made her shy and sensitive to criticism. She spent her school years at an arts lyceum, where her numerous talents blossomed. Maria passionately engaged in dancing, vocals, and music. When the girl turned 18, the Kovalchuk family's life changed dramatically. They were forced to leave their hometown. The family moved to Norway, where Maria's mother applied for documents to obtain a residence permit. However, Maria quickly grew bored with the calm life in Europe, and she decided to head toward new adventures. The girl chose Montenegro, where she began building a career as a blogger and model. It was there that she felt the taste of real freedom and independence. Soon, Maria ventured further into Southeast Asia, where her life filled with bright emotions and unforgettable impressions. Maria started running social media accounts, positioning herself as a model and traveler. Her pages were filled with candid photos. She paid special attention to the platform O, where she published the boldest content and earned quite well thanks to her appearance. Later, her account was closed for unknown reasons. There's not much information about Maria's personal life. The girl preferred not to publicize details of her relationships, rarely mentioned romantic connections, and didn't post joint photos with men. She spent most of her free time with her emigration girlfriends, among whom there was one particularly close friend. Maria Kovalchuk's life looked bright and eventful. Travels, new acquaintances, and self-confidence. She sincerely believed that the whole world was open to her and continued boldly moving forward toward her goals. In mid-February 2025, Maria Kovalchuk headed to the United Arab Emirates. At that time, nothing foreshadowed trouble. She didn't arrive alone, but in the company of a girlfriend. Maria believed that Dubai would open new horizons for her. Photo shoots, contracts, connections, money. During this period, she behaved as usual, maintaining her social media, sharing photos and videos. But soon, her girlfriend left. Maria stayed alone, and it seemed that from that moment, something strange began in her life. According to acquaintances, in early March, she seemed to change. Nervous, anxious, sometimes on the edge. Close ones recalled that she started speaking mysteriously, as if avoiding direct answers. She had hysterics, sharp mood swings. One of Maria's friends would later say, on March 9, 2025, Maria called her mother. Her voice sounded unusual, as if the girl was troubled by something. The girl informed her that she would stay overnight with them in the Al Burshad district, a place where high-rises with private penthouses neighbor half-abandoned construction sites and desolate wastelands. 2 days later, on March 11, 2025, Maria was supposed to fly to Thailand. The tickets were already bought. The plan was clear, but she never showed up at the airport. Instead, the girl called her mother again and said she wouldn't go to Thailand because she stayed with her new acquaintances. On the other end of the line, the mother sensed something was wrong. Maria didn't call again. A week passed, and the girl still hadn't gotten in touch. Friends started worrying, sending messages and asking mutual acquaintances. On March 18, 2025, social media exploded. One after another, alarming posts about Maria Kovalchuk's disappearance in Dubai began appearing. People spread information with hashtags, bloggers got involved, and even journalists joined in. Among those raising the wave was a model and former colleague of Maria's. At that moment, all that was known about Maria was one thing. She had vanished without a trace. And only on March 19th did shocking information hit the public space. Maria was found unconscious with multiple fractures. She had been in a Dubai hospital for several days already. She was brought there on March 12th, but the details only became known a week later. The girl had no phone, no documents, no belongings with her. Her identity was established only by tattoos on her body. When Maria's mother learned about this, she immediately flew to Dubai, but answered journalists' questions briefly. I'm in Dubai. I don't know anything right now. I can't write anything. And the investigation is ongoing. Meanwhile, Dubai police put forward an official version. According to them, Maria allegedly entered a closed construction site on her own and fell from a height. They also suggested that Maria decided to commit suicide. We've heard something like this somewhere before. And a little later, information about witnesses appeared in the media, who allegedly saw the girl on March 12th near the construction site in a distressed state. But close ones didn't believe the police version. She couldn't have just gone there like that. It's all lies, her friend said. Another added, if she had done it, it would only be because she was threatened. She was too alive, too strong, to just give up like that. When the news about Maria Kovalchuk hit the media, the whole world paid attention to this story, trying to give it publicity and not let it be hushed up. On March 19th, Maria Kovalchuk's mother told journalists, there's the name of the hotel where she was seen, and there's the penultimate place of residence, also a hotel. There's an assumption that she went to a party, but the promoter who organized these parties didn't see her. Today, Masha was found in the hospital in critical condition. She's without documents, without a phone, without anything. She underwent 3 operations and she can't speak. However, for unknown reasons, Maria's mother, after arriving in Dubai, refused numerous interviews. A friend of the Kovalchuk family shared her assumption with journalists. She stopped getting in touch. I think she was scared. She was simply forced to stay silent. Internet users began discussing the strange behavior of Maria's close friend. Soon after Maria was found, she deleted all posts related to the search and later disappeared from the public space altogether. The public assumed that Anna could have been involved in this tragedy. Allegedly, It was she who could have introduced Maria to the men who committed these horrible acts. A heated discussion unfolded on social media. Some expressed sympathy and wished Maria a speedy recovery. Others, on the contrary, gloated and blamed her for what happened, as if forgetting that she herself became a victim of this tragedy. Maria's mother spoke out about this. "It hurts me so much to see what they write. It's all lies. Please don't believe the dirt they're pouring on Masha. There's a lot of Photoshop and false information on the internet. People make money off someone else's grief, but we all walk under one God." Maria Kovalchuk suffered serious injuries and fell into a coma. The girl has already undergone 3 extremely complex operations. At the moment, Maria has regained consciousness. With successful treatment, the girl has a chance to speak again. However, there are no guarantees. Maria Kovalchuk has 2 more operations ahead. Medicine in Dubai is not cheap. In the UAE, foreigners without insurance receive medical care only at their own expense. Moreover, for tourists, the rates are significantly higher than for locals. For example, an operation to fix limb fractures starts from $8,000. And if we're talking about a full hip replacement, the amounts reach impressive scales. In some clinics from $17,000 to $25,000. In others, the price tag rises to $30,000 to $34,000. According to doctors, her treatment will require more than 10 million rubles. However, the recovery process promises to be long and difficult. The investigation into Maria Kovalchuk's case continues, and its results could play a key role in her fate. In the United Arab Emirates, strict laws are in effect. Providing intimate services is completely prohibited. If it's confirmed that the girl was involved in prostitution, she could face up to 6 months in prison. Punishments are also provided for those who organize such activities. As a rule, these are large fines. However, for sexual crimes, the punishment is much more severe: life imprisonment or even the death penalty. At the same time, as human rights activists note, responsibility is often placed on women, even if they themselves became victims. For now, this story remains quite mysterious. The full picture of what happened is still unknown. Recently, rumors about underground parties, known on the internet as porta potty, have started surfacing online. The public assumed that Maria could have ended up there, and her disappearance and injuries were the result of her either refusing something or trying to escape. But what hides behind this seemingly innocent name, porta potty? At first glance, it's just a portable toilet. They are installed at construction sites, festivals, and campsites where there are no stationary facilities. You've probably seen such cabins in your city, but few think that behind this simple word something much more unpleasant could be hidden, especially in the context of some stories where porta potty sounds anything but innocent. If you search this name on TikTok, a completely different reality awaits you. In recent years, porta potty has become a symbol of the dirty side of glamour. As early as 3 years ago, stories began spreading online where under this name lurked dubious parties and elite prostitution. The stories that surfaced under the term Dubai porta potty shocked users around the world back in 2022. Girls, mostly models and aspiring bloggers, told how they were invited to closed parties with promises of generous rewards, tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. At these parties, girls were forced to provide intimate services with no option to refuse. The selection of girls was like this: the younger, the better. From 18 to 22 years old, Slavic appearance, no piercings or tattoos, beautiful and slim girls. Some victims claimed they were forced to participate in acts involving defecation and urination by men directly on them, or next to them, or in conditions where women lost all sense of dignity. For this, large sums were offered, from $20,000 to $50,000 per evening. Some participants received money, while others got nothing but humiliation. At such meetings, girls were also offered various perversions, for example, with animals. And for the highest check, girls could be offered to have their teeth knocked out, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. The contracts they were asked to sign were written in English or Arabic. And not all girls understood exactly what they were agreeing to, and afterward they were forbidden to talk about it. But with the advent of social media, some began to tell about it anonymously. First on forums, then on TikTok and Telegram. And although there aren't many proofs, the scale of discussions and repeating details in different stories lead to the thought. Even if part of these stories is exaggerated, it's hard to call this topic completely fictional. After all, besides the story that happened with Maria Kovalchuk, there was a similar one, but in 2022, however, it ended in a fatal outcome. Kurungi Monique, better known on the internet as Monakis, was a 24-year-old native of Isanjiro district in Uganda, Africa. She ran her social media pages, where she shared photos and videos demonstrating a luxurious lifestyle in Dubai. Her posts often reflected a glamorous style of life. However, it is known that in her home country she was well known because she managed to escape poverty and start earning. On May 1, 2022, Kurungi Monique tragically died by jumping from the window of a high-rise building Al Fahad in Dubai. Death was instantaneous. The reasons that prompted Kurungi Monique to take such a step remain unclear to the end. However, there are several versions of what happened. Some sources report that she suffered from depression and was going through a difficult breakup with her ex-fiancé, who promised to marry her but ultimately tied the knot with another woman. In one message attributed to Monique, it said, "You spent all my money, promised to marry me, and now you've married another. I won't return to Uganda alive. I saw photos of your wedding. Thank you." Other sources pointed to the girl's financial difficulties. It was reported that Monique had overstayed her visa by 91 days, which resulted in a fine of approximately 200,000 Russian rubles. This debt could have exacerbated her experiences and, perhaps, contributed to the fatal decision. Kurungi Monique's death caused a wave of discussions on social media and in the media, as there were many strange things in this story. Social media users began actively discussing rumors linking her to those very porta-potty parties. And there were reasons for that. Kurungi Monique's blog contained many photos and video materials of an erotic nature. On the last shots, attentive users noticed bruises on her face and a characteristic burn on her neck. In addition, on one of the photos, someone's male toe accidentally got into the frame, which could indicate her participation in such parties. Also, the girl lived in decent Al Fahad apartments. Rent there reaches 200,000 rubles. As is known, the girl had a boyfriend whom she planned to marry. However, he preferred another to her. Kurungi Monique could have been providing erotic services, and her boyfriend didn't want to put up with it. Perhaps all this is just guesses. However, the details amazingly fit into a single picture. If you think that there are few such stories and girls choose such work themselves, then I'm forced to argue with you. Alina Shadida lived an ordinary life in a small town in Kyrgyzstan. She was 27 years old, and she was raising her son alone, having recently become a widow. Financial difficulties and lack of work pushed her to seek earnings abroad. One day, a message came to her in social networks from a woman who introduced herself as an employee of an international agency. The work promised to be highly paid and safe. A dancer in a prestigious club in Dubai. Despite doubts from her loved ones, Alina decided to go for earnings. In January 2017, she flew to Dubai, where she was warmly greeted by the employer's representatives and placed in a luxury hotel. At first, everything seemed perfect, but soon it became clear that the contract conditions were a trap. Alina's passport and phone were confiscated, and instead of dancing, she was ordered to engage in prostitution. Attempts to resist turned into brutal beatings and threats. The criminals stated that Alina must pay them a debt of $180,000 for transportation and accommodation. In despair, the girl managed to briefly call her mother, informing her that her arm was broken and they were demanding a huge ransom. In the middle of the conversation, the connection suddenly cut off. After that, Alina disappeared. Alina's relatives didn't lose hope of finding her alive, suspecting that the girl could have been resold to another country or illegally held without documents. Turned out that a conflict occurred in the club, and Dubai police arrived. After that, Alina was arrested. Later, on January 19th, she was accidentally recognized by a representative of the Swiss Foundation during a visit to the migration prison in Dubai and immediately informed her mother. The girl's deportation back to Kyrgyzstan was delayed for several days. Fortunately, Alina returned home unharmed. Another girl named Izarkin, barely having crossed the threshold of adulthood, decided on a step that, as she thought would change her life for the better. The 19-year-old girl from a small Kyrgyz settlement dreamed of helping her family and escaping poverty. Through acquaintances, she was offered a job abroad in Dubai. They promised a position as a saleswoman in a store with accommodation and decent pay. "I thought I would just stand behind the counter, smile, and talk to customers," the girl recalled. However, the reality turned out to be terrifying. Upon arriving in the UAE, Izarkin expected to see a workplace in a shopping center, but she was met by a man who immediately took her passport. Instead of a store, the girl was taken to a building that turned out to be not a trading point at all, but a massage salon. And very quickly it became clear there would be no clothing sales. They said, "Don't be afraid. It's not difficult, you'll learn." I immediately understood that this was about prostitution, Izarkin told journalists. At first, Izarkin tried to explain that a mistake had occurred, but in response she heard threats and soft but persistent pressure. They didn't let her leave. She had no documents, and her phone was taken. The situation resembled a trap from which there was no way out. The decision to run came spontaneously. Finding a moment when no one was watching, Izarkin ran out into the street and dashed to the nearest store. There, she turned to a female seller for help, explaining that she was in trouble. The woman called the police. In the station, the girl was detained. However, after contacting the Kyrgyz consulate, it was possible to prove that she had become a victim of scammers. Soon, she was allowed to return home. I was lucky that I didn't agree. Other girls stayed there. I don't know what happened to them. If I could go back, I would do everything differently. But now my task is to tell the truth so that others don't fall into the same trap, the girl admitted. Izarkin openly shared her experience to warn other girls. There are really a lot of such stories related to Dubai. I found a lot of material, but believe me, they all won't fit into this episode. But why does this happen and how to avoid falling into this trap? The scenario starts with a typical story. Girls from countries like Kyrgyzstan, Uganda, Russia receive offers of work abroad in social networks or through acquaintances. Most often, it's about vacancies for waitresses, dancers, administrators, or masseuses. They offer high salaries, payment for tickets, and housing. Some girls even go through interviews via video call, which creates an illusion of legitimacy. However, upon arrival in Dubai, everything changes. At the airport, girls are met by intermediaries, taken to apartments or so-called salons, where they are presented with a fact. Now they must work off the debt for the flight, visa, housing, and other effective expenses. This is how girls fall into a kind of dependence from which it's almost impossible to escape. The main schemes of involvement. First, false vacancies. The most common scheme. They use fake agency websites or fake pages on social networks. Often, the organizers themselves look like ordinary girls, inspiring trust. Second, VIP parties and model castings. Girls are promised participation in closed events or photo shoots, and upon arrival, they are forced into prostitution. Third, internet acquaintances. Under the guise of romantic relationships, men sponsors invite girls to the Arab Emirates. After arrival, it turns out it was a trap. Fourth, fake massage and dance schools. Girls are sure they're going to study, but upon arrival, they're distributed to brothels under the guise of massage salons. Fifth, fake police. There have been cases where women were kidnapped right from the street, disguised as fake document or visa checks, who ends up in slavery. First of all, vulnerable women. These are young girls from poor regions, single mothers, victims of domestic violence, often without experience working abroad. What unites them is one thing: the desire for a better life. Criminals play on exactly this. How do such stories end? Some manage to escape and return home, but many remain hostages of the system. They are intimidated, blackmailed, denied help, and some simply disappear without a trace. Names, as a rule, remain unknown. Their stories are the truth that is customary to keep silent about. But who are all the people who involve women in sexual slavery? This woman is called Christy Gold. Her real name is Christiana Jacob Wandeli, a Nigerian citizen, and she organized a human trafficking network in the United Arab Emirates. According to the investigation, she, together with accomplices, lured women from Nigeria and other African countries, promising them legal work in Dubai, in stores, salons, restaurants. In reality, women were forced into prostitution. When victims refused, they were threatened with reprisals. 3 victims reported that Gold directly said, "If you don't obey, you'll be killed and thrown into the desert." Those who earned insufficiently were punished. According to the testimony of 5 women, they were placed in one of the apartments in Dubai. There, Christie's brother named Solomon beat them, starved them, and also forcibly inserted a burning paste of hot chili pepper into their vaginas. This was used as a form of punishment. "They beat me so that I couldn't get up. Everything burned inside. The pain was unbearable," one of the victims told. Women lived in cramped, overcrowded rooms. About 18 women slept on the floor. Their passports were taken and fake documents issued, with which it was impossible to leave the country. All earned money was taken away. To enhance control, debt bondage and elements of traditional African beliefs were used, roughly speaking, to give an oath of 100% submission. They were told that violating the oath would lead to a curse, madness, or death. Christie Gold claimed in court that she simply rented housing to migrants and had nothing to do with prostitution. UAE authorities stated that she did not violate laws and entered the country legally. However, victims' testimonies and case materials say the opposite. Nigerian authorities brought 6 charges against her under the human trafficking law. After being released on bail, Gold disappeared. Her whereabouts have been unknown since then. British activist Angus Thomas helped free at least 8 women, as well as handed over data on Gold to the investigation and started a campaign to return victims to their homeland. On social media, he tracked her actions and demonstrative lifestyle. Jewelry, parties, business in Dubai. The trial of one of her accomplices, Mercy Awuzo, ended in a guilty verdict, but Christie Gold herself is still at large. In Dubai, money decides everything, and absolutely any girl fitting the standards can fall into sexual slavery. Upon arrival, anything can happen. Perhaps you're thinking right now, what other parties? Another fake. But let's listen to an interview with Sura, who personally organized such parties. How did you get into this industry? I worked as a consultant in an engineering company in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. My job gradually started including escorting clients on weekends in Dubai. I built the right contacts and moved there. Banks and big companies began hiring me to arrange leisure for their guests. So you're more than just a pimp? Correct. It's not just pimping or prostitution. I satisfy all my clients' needs. We're connected to major hotels and nightclubs. When they have high-profile guests who want to throw a party or do something special for their clients, they call me. Everyone who recommends us gets their cut. We've built our reputation on protecting our clients' identities. We've organized parties for celebrities, politicians, and gangsters. Everyone has different preferences. Not everyone likes blondes with big breasts. Some rappers come and want to smoke in an underwater hotel. Businessmen sometimes want to shoot from a camel or a Lamborghini in the desert. I help them enjoy life and relax when they're in Dubai. This is a paradise for bad boys, and they can forget about the real world for a long time. Tell me about the strangest party. There was one American businessman who wanted 10 women to meet him in a tent in the desert. We equipped the tent with a sound system, outdoor jacuzzis, and huge beds under the open sky. He was a very strange person. He watched as servants had sex with the women. He didn't want alcohol or anything else. Were there local clients? There was one sheik from Yemen who wanted me to find 30 African women and enough Viagra to kill an elephant. All of it had to be provided within an hour. He invited me to join, and I told him, "No, please enjoy." Then I sat in the lobby, drank cognac until dawn, and watched as room service constantly brought towels to the room. When they finished, the hotel looked like after a bomb explosion. I had to organize cleaning. Aren't you afraid of the police? We know who to work with. Everything is done carefully. The main market is foreigners and businessmen. For money, you can buy anything here. Sex and money rule everything, and we serve the right people. How do you feel about these women being exploited? That's nonsense. Ask any of them. No one forces them. Many came from poverty, and now they drive Ferraris and live in towers. Yes, not everyone has that story, but it's not exploitation. And how much does it all cost? If you want to sleep with one of our girls, it's not cheap. We don't need clients, and our reputation speaks for itself. We work only by recommendation. Prices for girls start from $1,000 per hour. Besides money, why do you do all this? I like satisfying people. In a way, I'm like a therapist. I know my clients' secret desires and love organizing their fulfillment. I like meeting them later and seeing the expression on their faces. Do you think your work is important? Some immature people think you can only be good or bad. Who decides which desire is good and which is bad? I provide services that some consider bad, but they're natural and people need to live them out from time to time. But in any case, it's necessary. I offer elite service for those who have the freedom in the Arab world to realize their desires. Is it good or bad? That's a subjective question. Here are the key tips that will help you avoid something like this. First, don't believe in easy money. Be wary of suspiciously lucrative job offers abroad, especially from strangers. Promises of high salaries with minimal effort are a common trick of scammers. Such schemes are often used to draw women into labor or sexual slavery. Remember, free cheese is only in a mousetrap. Second, get a job only through official channels. A work visa and signed contract are mandatory. Apply only to licensed agencies or through government programs. No tourist visas with subsequent sorting on site. All gray schemes are a direct path to deception and loss of control over the situation. Third, never give your passport to strangers. Your foreign passport is your main document and guarantee of freedom. No one has the right to take it under the pretext of processing documents, registration, buying a SIM card, or anything else. Seizure of a passport is the first step toward forcible detention. At the slightest attempt to seize it, refuse and immediately cease contact. Fourth, stay in touch with loved ones. Inform relatives of your travel itinerary, accommodation address, and employer's contacts. Leave them copies of your documents. Get in touch regularly. In case of disappearance, a timely report to the police can play a decisive role. The sooner they start searching, the higher the chance of rescue. Fifth, be cautious with acquaintances. Don't trust new acquaintances with overly flattering words or offers to earn, relax, or spend the night. Especially dangerous are offers to seclude in an unfamiliar place. If you still go along, tell someone where and with whom, or better yet, take a girlfriend. Sixth, caution on the streets and in public places. Tourist areas are safe, but stay alert. If someone claims to be a policeman, ask to show ID. Don't get into a car with strangers. If in doubt, suggest going to the nearest station or call the police. In the UAE, the number is 999. You have the right to show distrust. Seventh, in an emergency, act immediately. If you feel a threat or are already in a dangerous situation, don't stay silent. Contact the police or your country's consulate. There are also hotlines and shelters for victims. It's important to remember, you are the victim and bear no blame for what happened. Seek help as soon as you can. In summary, the United Arab Emirates is not a dangerous country, and millions of tourists visit it quite safely. But the problem of human trafficking is real, especially for vulnerable young women seeking a better life. Criminals act inventively. Deception, violence, blackmail, manipulation. In general, a full arsenal. Knowing their tricks and observing precautions can reduce risks. This information is not to scare you but to warn you. Always be attentive and cautious. Take care of yourself. And that was me. See you in the new video.